Hey, AfterBuzz TV fans, welcome to the Limitless After Show. We're talking about episode 20. Hi, my name is Rebecca Harris. Tune in as we discuss Rebecca on NZT.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Yes, welcome back. This is the Limitless After Show. I'm your lead host, JB. You can follow me at HeyJohnBlake on social media, alongside the full panel, Amanda.
Hello, I'm Amanda. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at AmandaFTA31.
Awesome, and Frank.
Hey guys, it's Frank Majorana. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Let's Go Frank M.
Let's go. Let's talk right into this episode. I loved it. We came off of an episode with Bradley Cooper. Tough to compare with that, but I think they did a really good job. I mean, we saw Rebecca on NZT for the first time. How cool was that, guys?
It was great, and I loved that it was completely from her perspective. I wrote, Rebecca's story, finally. This is exactly what we wanted.
Yeah.
We always said we want to know more about her and more about her father, more about her childhood, and that's exactly how it opened. So I was hooked from the beginning.
I will agree with you that I like that we got to Rebecca's story. I think that's a great point. This is an important episode of her, of her character. The one thing, though, that I didn't like was that all along, all season, we've been talking about how Rebecca keeps pace with Brian while he is on the drug.
Right.
So, she's always been there, and she had this line that said, "You had me at a disadvantage up to this point," and maybe so, but his advantage was that he lied to her. It wasn't necessarily that he was on NZT, it's just that he lied to her. So we talked a lot about how she would figure out things before him or had natural talents. That, of course, the NZT led to a lot of interesting moments, but for me, in a way, it took a little bit away from her because I thought she was on the verge of figuring all this out, and she did, without taking the pill. But then she took the pill to further her action and drive this episode. So I guess for me, in a way, it took a little bit away from her character.
Interesting perspective. I mean, granted, I agree somewhat with you because Rebecca on NZT, where she has, normal Rebecca is pretty close to Brian on NZT. She's
Right.
comparable.
Right.
Her on NZT is, unstoppable.
That's right.
She
Yeah.
is gonna be the first female president of the United States and, possibly the world.
The president of the world?
President of the
Of
world.
the free world,
She
okay.
will conquer the globe
All right.
and then be president of
I'll
it.
take her over Hillary. I'm fine with that.
I mean, she's...
Oh. This is the second week we've talked about politics on the show.
Well, yeah, we don't need to digress into a political debate, but no, I do think that it is kind of unfair. She's such a smart person, so her fueled by NZT is insane. Having said that, it was cool to see what it looks like for a naturally gifted person to have that boost. And, I think they handled it in a way that made sense. She was smarter than Brian. She figured everything out so quickly. It was her first experience on NZT. Even in the first few minutes interrogating Brian in his apartment, she figured all of this out from the blood in his face.
Yeah.
And that's insane. She has seen so much in her life previous. There's so much more for her to draw on. And Brian admitted that. He was like, "You on NZT is completely unfair."
Yeah, he was kind of, when she figured out the first thing, he was kind of like, well, okay, yeah, fine. He
Yeah,
was kind of
and
snubbed
I'm back
by
out
it.
of my league. Yeah.
But I like that it also kind of brought us back to the basics of what NZT is, because now it's been to the point where I remember when we first started, we would see the pill go down his throat and they'd be very detailed about that, and now he just pops them in and it's just part of the story. So it was cool to see again how the world changes and how you start to see just exactly how the drug affects you, and how she spoke about how when you're looking through the information, you would think you're just a robot, but you felt more alive than ever before. And I don't know, I kind of needed, after episode 20, kind of a refresher on exactly what this drug does. It was cool to kind of go back to the beginning.
Yeah, and if you notice what they did with color, the saturation that we normally see with Brian is a little orange hue. It was doubly so tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Her
Right.
lips were almost brown when we were
Yeah.
watching it going through. So even in the quality of the visuals had changed with two people on NZT. And I liked how Rebecca's visuals were all very structured. When she was going through the DNA, she used her hand and you saw all these very technical and specific and precise visuals. As compared to when Brian is on NZT, it's very cartoonish. There's, he's very silly. He was
Poster
eating
boards.
poster boards and puppets.
Topical sticks.
Et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So there were a contrast of styles, even though they were on the same drug.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, no,
fascinating.
I like what both of you guys said, and I think we want, like, they wanted the audience to notice it, and I'm glad, because it's been a little while. We've gotten so used to Brian on NZT, it sort of has become the norm of the show, rather than in the beginning when they were making it a very specific point to say, like, now he's on NZT, now he's not, and it was a very, again, like you said, Frank, the saturation it's such an orange hue. It almost looks like you're wearing like blue blockers.
That's true.
Their
you know.
lips especially, it's crazy. It's like,
Yeah.
It's like yellow.
But it serves a purpose. It's not just them to do like one wash of like, okay, she takes the pill. It's to show her whole process. And right from the beginning, this was like an entirely Rebecca episode.
Right.
Not just that she was the main focus, which she has been in a couple other episodes, but it was told from her perspective, which I think, Amanda, you pointed out.
I love
really
that.
interesting. I mean, even in the intro, they did sort of like a montage, like Rebecca mini biopic. They continued it throughout the episode, but we got a little bit more of where she comes from. Seeing her as a child, seeing her see her dad that way as a drug addict, like the impact it had for her, and that leading up to the reason she became a cop. Like to see her make that decision at such a young age really set the episode up and really explained a lot of her character for me. I mean, it's things I assumed, but it was nice that they made that clear. Like, no, she's from literally like 7 years old wanting to be a cop because her dad was this one case she could never solve, which is interesting. It kind of explains a lot, and I think is mirrored by the fact that she is, not a person that should take NZT all the time. I mean, even Nas, I think, makes it very clear, like, she is an addictive personality. She should not be one who tries this. She's the last person that should try it.
She really is.
And I think that's true. I mean, I don't think she needs it. And to see how much she liked it, they really brought back how NZT is a drug and not, it allows you to do a lot of great things. They solved the case. They worked really well together. But at the same time, it's a drug. And I think that a part of the style that they used to show her on NZT was to highlight the fact that this is like a drug-induced Rebecca. And just bringing that idea back that it's a drug. Like, she's basically high. Like, I mean, in a very productive way, but...
And going off that, when they were in the trailer with the woman, I don't remember exactly what her name was, but the initials, she was AG, right?
Yes, AG.
I liked how they kind of explained that when she was off the shots and ended up getting off everything, she ended up going into a lot of withdrawal, and then she basically had to use painkillers to help with the pain, and it kind of just reminded you that, okay, it is a drug, and just what drugs are, and at the end of the day, they're not as good as they're not as amazing as NZT seems to be in most episodes.
Yeah,
it seems to be amazing, but it's still drug.
that's a great point. Except for, like, the actor had, like, perfect legs. Did you notice she had, like,
Well, of course.
amazing legs? And, like, anyway, I wanted
Only
to
you
see her
noticed
to
that,
be
Frank.
a little bit. Oh,
Only
no.
Frank noticed that.
No, I'm not the only one. You men out there noticed too. But maybe a little bit more decrepit, I would have thought from her. But
Yeah.
I think the performance got the point across, like
Yeah.
you said. I will say that the episode, the start and the finish of the episode, the first 10 and the last 10, I thought were really, really strong. Of this, it brought you right in the opening shot where Rebecca has a bullet coming at her, 1,900 miles an hour, as she says, pulls you right into the episode, and at the end, like JB was talking about, we have Rebecca's showcase coming to a close with her dad, and this sort of illusion that she has that he's still there, and they sort of get to say this goodbye to each other that I'm sure that they didn't have in real life. So those two aspects, the very start and the very finish, I thought was really strong storytelling.
Yeah.
This episode, I really liked it.
Yeah, I did like the father part at the end, except I didn't really feel like he wasn't there. It's clearly her mind made it up. So I think if I were Rebecca and I woke up the next day, I would say, that my mind made that up. Like, I gave myself that gift. It wasn't like she really saw her father or even saw some type of like hallucination or ghost of her father. She just saw what her mind created, which I guess is a hallucination, but it wasn't, I don't know.
Right.
It's not really him.
It's interesting that she was seeing him so often. I mean,
Yeah.
Brian said he saw, he sees Ringo Starr, but we only ever see him usually see himself, like versions of himself.
Or people who are alive.
Right. But it was interesting for Rebecca. I mean, it just shows how unresolved that is, even though she's sort of devoted her life to something. It is unsolved. Like, it's an unsolved mystery in her life, and she needs to close that before she can move on. And I wonder if she can do that with NZT, or if that's just going to spin her down a dangerous path.
Yeah, she could. I mean, do we think she's going to get addicted? I feel like she may. She may want to. I mean, he kind of went away with her asking a question. She may want to get him back and ask him more questions.
Well, that's the danger with this drug, right?
Yeah.
You take it once, and she says it before she takes it. She says, I know this has a hell of a hangover, but she does it anyway. So this has been the question with Boyle when he has the drug, and with Rebecca now, and Casey before that. When you take this drug, it is highly addictive, and it really sends you off health-wise. So I think she's smart enough to move past it where she's not going to need it anymore. She seems to be totally in control, doesn't need anything emotionally, seems pretty proud of herself, and I don't think needs to be this person who is better than who she is now. She's pretty damn good as a sober person. And to whereas Brian, remember the start of this show, the reason for the show is that Brian wanted to be somebody a little bit better than himself. And so I think there was an emotional reason for him to elevate his behavior. That just isn't there for Rebecca because she's already accomplished things on her own.
I don't know. I think she's more insecure than we think she is.
Really?
I think she,
Interesting. Okay.
has daddy issues, clearly. Clearly. I think, B, she has interesting taste in men. Like, she dated the one guy, she's like, we can't talk to him because I had, like, a date with him and stuff.
Quentin.
Yeah.
I
Quentin.
remember that, and we were like, no.
Yeah,
come
remember?
on.
Yeah, that was a weird story.
Yeah, I just feel like she's not as secure with her. She has made amazing accomplishments and she's an amazing person, but I just don't know if she's as secure with herself
Fair point.
as you think she is.
I mean, to that point, though, I feel like they did bury a little, like, foreshadowing seed of Team Brecca because, while she was on NCT, Rebecca's father sort of seemed like permission for her to, as legitimizing her feelings for Brian. He was like, I can see why you like him. Whether that means she likes him is up for debate. So we'll have to stay tuned in future episodes to see. But I thought that was an interesting choice that they made to intentionally put the father figure, like, acknowledging Brian and her feelings for him.
Yeah, and also she comes to the realization that Brian is putting everything on the line by turning in Mr. Sands. She has no connection anymore Brian has no connection anymore to a shot, with Piper being in Sands' hands and Maura probably unwilling to help him any further, given the confrontation scene that they had last episode. So Brian has really put it all on the line for Rebecca, and she recognizes that, and it makes her emotional, and I think really shines through the character that Brian had in helping her out and helping her bring this unanswered question in her life to a conclusion and to a satisfactory one, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, speaking about the whole Brian-Rebecca dynamic, I thought it was really interesting to watch them both interact on NZT. I mean, from the initial scene with them during the interrogation, he was very forthcoming, telling her right off the bat that he is not immune to NZT, kind of letting the cat out of the bag, and also, letting her realize everything. It was a very, like, mentor, role for Brian to take, which I thought was very interesting because it's the reverse most days. And now we see Brian sort of playing on. He had undone the handcuffs, but was still, doing this charade because it made her more comfortable, more in control. So it was interesting to see that dynamic, and it sort of shift when Brian realized, like, okay, you're speeding past me. Like, he kind of defaulted to a little bit more the wayside, got ice cream, was still there to help because he is on NZT and is very capable. But it was interesting where he sort of let Rebecca figure things out and was there in more support than we've seen him. Because otherwise he just kind of goes off and wanders, and which he sort of did, but
I love when
he has more of a motive, I guess, to continuously help on the sidelines, more so than he had for this. I felt like he was kind of waiting for Rebecca to take the lead a little bit more. How'd you guys think?
I mean, I loved when he had that ice cream. I just have to point that out. I just thought it was the funniest thing.
No, it was weird, though. It was a smiley face, which I liked. Was it like a CGI popsicle?
No, that was
stick,
real. That was real.
I don't know, it looked a little weird.
Why would they do that? Why wouldn't he just get a regular icicle?
Know.
I think that'd be a lot cheaper. But I do think that he was kind of being a mentor, but I also think that he knew that she had to kind of figure it out on her own. It was something that she wanted to do. She was so determined, and so he just kind of, yes, he was behind, but he also knew that it was something she had to do for herself.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I'm just
You
listening.
do?
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
I think, you're right on the money there. You've got a lot of good points tonight, Amanda.
I'm
Fair
on
enough.
fire. Maybe I'm on NZT.
Maybe.
I wish.
All right, well, let's talk about Sans then. He is breaking out on his own, which is confirmed. We kind of alluded to that with Bradley Cooper's character, Eddie Morris, saying that, like, he's gone rogue, but without having seen him and knowing, firsthand what he's doing. It's difficult to just trust what Eddie Morris says,
right?
Specifically after he's about to, like, make a presidential speech. So he is finally taking control. It seems like he's just fed up with all of the grunt work and the doing other people's bidding and just being kind of a do this fixer man for all these higher ups. And he, to put it in Brian's words, is kind of involved in this whole Legion of Doom group where they've captured Piper. They're kind of cornering the whole NZT market and are about to break off and do their own thing. We didn't get a lot from who the other characters are. It seemed like one of them, I think she was like an Irish lady, was romantically involved with Sans. But we didn't really see anyone else. We saw he put a tray down of NZT to a table of goons, but we never really see what's behind that. Season 2.
I don't think so, though, because Sans got caught, and I was a little bit disappointed that he got caught so quickly because I wanted to see this organization become more and become organized and start to make moves against Mora and Brian. But Sans shows a little respect to Brian by texting him before the assassin shoots Rebecca. So there is a mutual respect there that Brian had saved Sans' son, but ultimately it's what caused Sans to get caught because they planted the seed in his mind, using Rebecca's bugs in her apartment that, they needed to get it back over there. So
and not just that, but Sans also owes his own life to Brian. He came to him when he was in real bad shape, and Brian, fixed him up. So I think that he does owe Brian more than one, in the fact that he kind of mentions, I can't just kill him. He's done some stuff for me in the past is really true. Like, it's kind of twofold. So it's not something he can get over easily and just check that off the list and kill Brian. I mean, similar to his relationship with Houston, which we see, in a different way. He is kind of a sentimental person, which is weird for an assassin.
Yeah, but he's in jail now, so
He is.
I don't understand how that organization continues.
I think he has some tricks up his sleeve. I think he's going to either figure out a way to get out, or he's going to be able to have some type of communication with that squad I don't know if
Well,
they
yeah,
should be called
I
a
mean-
squad, but outside, there's gonna
The
be
Legion of Doom.
Well, because it was kind of bizarre to me how he just all of a sudden became this like villain, like insane villain. Like I almost feel like the writers kind of came up with that last minute.
Wait. You thought Sans was an insane villain?
Yeah.
No.
In the past couple, I thought he was.
I
like,
mean, he is definitely putting in motion like some type of mayhem.
okay, they had him in a room with like a table. I mean, he clearly.
Just because there's a table here, we
Okay.
okay.
There was a long table. He had like a bunch of people. He was
Doing
He
drugs.
became like a villain.
You know,
in the last
I
couple
will give you
episodes.
he's a certified
Like,
villain. I don't know if he's like a super villain.
I thought they were setting him up to be the villain of season 2.
But we don't know what his purposes were. You don't know what he said to that group. Only that they had the pill and they were there
Yeah.
together. And so that evidence is just completely based on the way you thought the shot looked. Because they were in a dark room and he turns around menacingly in his chair and looks at his
they
team.
made the shot to look like that so
I
that
agree
you
with
would
you.
think he'd
Right.
be a villain.
But if
No,
he
I
was
mean,
a villain, he would sayonara Brian right away. But he feels
Yeah.
some sense
well,
of
he
loyalty
did
and
try
respect.
to. He did try
he
to.
did try to. He said, get
busted
rid of
in
both
there
of them.
like
He
a.
said, get rid of both of them.
He
Like an
wouldn't have
assassin.
texted Brian to let him know he was
Say
coming if he
duck.
genuinely wanted him to die.
I
No,
think-
true. For that,
But
I
every
definitely agree with you.
villain has. Most villains nowadays on television have some type of moral. Like, they have some redeeming qualities.
Okay.
Like, I'm thinking of. Who am I thinking of? I don't know. I'll come back. But there's
Well,
like.
I mean, this could
they
be
have redeeming qualities.
early stage Sans villain.
Yeah.
You know, we just saw him incarcerated once. He just got basically screwed over by Brian. Probably not going to sit well as
Yeah.
he's in jail thinking about it. You know, if he
Yeah.
really did organize this whole Legion of Doom, you know, I would only assume that they would have some type of capability to get him out. I mean, I don't know how many people he's working with specifically, but if there is a team and they have Piper, they've got NZT, you know, a team of people can definitely figure out how to break out of prison. We've seen Brian, who's no one, you know,
Yeah.
he's on NZT and he can do insane things. Like, he
Right.
overthrows governments. So, you know, it's very possible that Sans might not be in jail for very long. And if he does get out, I can only assume that he would have a pretty big vendetta against Brian, and maybe that would make him or transform him into the villain Sans that we need. Well, I mean, what a formidable foe. Like, he is not only very good with his own skills as, you know, a former secret agent spy, but if given the power of NZT and like a competent team, that's a pretty intense adversary, I guess, for especially Brian. If his NZT days are numbered, like, it's racing against the clock at that point.
Well, that's what the last 2 episodes are going to be about. Can Brian get the shot? Can he survive beyond the Mora organization or getting pills from the FBI? At the end of the episode, we saw his nameplate in the trash. Obviously, a clear indicator that he's not going to be at the FBI anymore as he pursues Piper and trying to free himself ultimately from this drug. But he's taken it so much now for so long that it is truly life or death for him to get that shot. Because if he doesn't, I mean, he's down for the count. I
He's
mean,
going to be like the woman in the trailer.
well, worse than that, because
Yeah.
he's been taking it regularly every day. And, you know, going all the way back to the movie, I mean, when you take it, Bradley Cooper took it for several days in a row, and when he came off it, he almost died. And actually, earlier this season,
Brian had an episode like
exactly, yeah, earlier this season, he almost died too. So that's what I think the last 2 episodes are really going to be about.
that. Yeah. No, I'm super excited. I mean, it was great to see this whole like trap setup with Sans.
Yeah.
You know, them thinking ahead. I'm surprised that if Sans had access to NCT, that he didn't see that coming. But I think it was more a play for the audience. Like, you know, everything is happening, and we think they're just doomed because it's so obvious. Thankfully, finally bringing back the surveillance in Rebecca's apartment that they set up several episodes ago.
Yes.
But I love that little twist of, oh yeah, I totally saw that. We set this whole thing up.
Well, it furthers Amanda's point about Rebecca being Superwoman on NZT, right? So Sands could potentially be on NZT, Brian too, but Rebecca's better than all of them normally. So when she takes that pill, she's better than them both. So I think the capture of Sands is realistic. To address your point where you said, he's sort of on NZT, so should have saw it coming. I think that's true, but when you have 3 people all on NZT working against each other, 2 versus 1, I think that created an advantage for Rebecca, and ultimately they caught him.
That's interesting how when they all are on the drug, it's sort of an even playing field again, and everybody's operating almost, they're all operating at like a super level, but they're within their normal ratios, I guess.
Yeah, it all depends on what they've seen, what they've absorbed in their life.
Right.
So she's been through FBI training and all that kind of stuff. That
That's
stuff that sticks with her.
That's a great point.
She watches TED Talks
She does.
in her house
Who
by
doesn't?
herself on lying,
She's a little lonely.
which is why I'm saying she's not as secure as we think she is.
Oh my
well,
god.
she shouldn't have been dating Quentin. That's just weird.
Yeah.
Or Casey.
They had a thing on Dexter. Obviously, that's a different show entirely.
Oh,
but
so
I'm
since
just
they had it
saying.
on Dexter, no, I'm just kidding.
Well, no. When we had Josh in the studio, he mentioned that when they were casting, Jennifer Carpenter recommended him as for the role, which is great. I love when stars actually do have real chemistry because they've worked together or they get along or they're friends in real life. So that made so much more sense, which is why the whole Quentin storyline seemed a little thrown in just to tie a storyline together, not because of any real chemistry.
But I do like that point you made earlier, about she doesn't have great taste in men. Amanda, I think that's actually a valid point. But I don't sense the chemistry between them as being romantic between Brian and Rebecca. I think there is a love there, but it's not a love that says I want you, I need you, oh baby, oh baby. It's I respect you and care about you deeply, and I think that's
It's like brother-sister love.
Yeah, which is more than I can say for Brian's real sister.
I was just about to say.
the rat.
I kind of
She's
didn't miss her
horrible.
this week.
Good. Yeah.
I was fine without her.
Would anybody ever miss her ever?
No, but however,
Exactly.
I did miss Mike and Ike.
I did too. Yeah, it's
kind
nice
of a
having
bummer.
those guys in there, but the
They're
show,
the comedic relief a little bit.
they are the comedic relief. The show took a more serious turn this
Mm-hmm.
week, and I think we'll be doing so for the next 2 episodes. I've been actually following Doug Arniakowski on Twitter, who I've mentioned before. They're actually still shooting the finale right now.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow.
So, and it's coming out, the season finale is on April 26th. We've got a break next week, then we'll be back on the 19th for the penultimate episode,
Yes,
and then the
part
finale.
1 of the finale. It's broken up into 2 episodes, so it should be pretty good, pretty epic.
Pretty epic. And
Pretty
they're still
epic.
editing, they're still shooting in New York right now, so they got to race. They got to get this thing ready.
Yeah, they do.
It's seriously, it's kind of mimicking Brian's
Isn't it
racing
snowing
against,
in New York right now? I'm pretty sure it is.
I don't know.
I think it snowed yesterday.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
Just thinking that might be
it's
how
been
that
very
might be
nice
messing
here
up
in
their
LA.
production schedule.
Yeah, it was 88 in Burbank today, so.
Not too shabby.
If you're out
Too
there,
shabby.
East Coast, come on over.
But you know what? People have had like snow days in New York, and that's one thing I miss
In
after
April?
being
What,
out here in
snow
LA.
days?
Snow days.
Is it worth though? Just being miserable all the time in the cold.
Not in April.
Yeah.
I grew up in Michigan, so I know what snow is. I know what cold is, and we used to wear shorts to school in April when it was like 55 degrees because
Oh,
it felt like
gosh.
80.
Yeah.
And then it would snow in April, and it would just kill our hopes for the next couple weeks.
I just
awful.
miss those days where you wake up and your mom's like, "You don't have to go to school."
Oh
today."
yeah,
That's just the best. And then like
That's
she
the
starts
best.
making waffles or pancakes. It's just the best thing ever,
that is so true.
and I miss it.
I think you and Brian would get along. I feel like that's such a
Me too.
Brian best day ever to have. Just like
I think Brian and I would get along. I think Jake and I would get along. So
Would you get along really well?
Jake and I,
Yeah.
he does like blondes, but short-haired blondes.
Well,
His girlfriend has short
would
hair.
you cut
Whoa.
your hair for Brian?
Piper has
No.
longer hair, or not long hair. Which it's longer. I guess
Yeah.
I wouldn't call that short hair.
Yeah, no, she has longer hair.
We'll ask the fans out there. You guys can use that hashtag
Oh, God.
ABTV Limitless. Let us know if you think Amanda is right for Brian. Reply yes or no and include your reasoning. That's hashtag ABTV
And
Limitless.
be nice, please.
No.
I mean,
Be
tell the
honest.
truth.
They're gonna be like,
honest.
absolutely not. Why would she ever think that? We hate her.
No, you're great.
Thanks, guys.
You're welcome.
I mean, but speaking of Brian, I do want to kind of wrap up him in this episode because we see him basically bow out. We see he must have taken his name tag off of his cubicle. Stavros picks it up, basically. I mean, where do we see him? Do you think he should step down? Do you think this world is even right for him? I mean, I can't imagine just taking NZT is like a suitable solution for the rest of your life.
Well, he can't anymore. He doesn't have a supply.
Right.
So, yeah.
But I mean, given these next two episodes, do we think specifically with Brian, before we get into bigger predictions, do you think he is going to? Do you think he even should go pursue NZT forever? I mean, finding Piper, getting the antidote, and using it religiously, or is he the type of person who can just be happy going back to the old self of kind of being a nobody?
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay, I think
That's a big one.
I think Brian can, and his ultimate goal is to go back to the life that he had before. His relationship with his family has been completely destroyed by this whole experience. And I think, there's a potential for a situation where things work out at the end of the season and him and Piper reunite and he's able to take a shot but turns down the pill. And then we come back next season and they draw him back in, if there is a season 2. Because, family was the overriding theme of the first, I'd say, 6 episodes of the show. And his relationship with his dad, this is why he got into this whole pickle, was to help his dad out and help diagnose his illness. Mm-hmm. And now that family is completely out of his life. His sister, his mom, and his dad are all gone. So I think his ultimate goal in all this over the next 2 episodes is find Piper, get the shot so that I don't have to take NZT anymore.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that he's happy being himself, and I think if he has Piper alongside him, he'll be really good. But I do think
he
that
will.
oh
Sorry.
my gosh, here we go. But I do think that maybe it'll be some type of relationship where maybe he's not on NZT, but Piper is, or something. Like, I think he still would want to be involved with solving crimes or helping people. I think he's gotten addicted to that. Maybe not all the, FBI stuff, but I think he did enjoy helping people, solving cases, things like that.
Interesting.
And if he had Piper by his side, she might, they might be like a little team, a little duo.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see the happy ending of Brian and Piper kind of ending up together and doing what he said, going off and just leaving everything behind. Having said that, I think that Brian's superpower, if you can call it that, is his ability to kind of give up NZT for something he believes in. He cares so much innately, like as Brian, cares so much about others that he's able to put that in front of his own ambition, which means he can step away from NZT. He did that at the end of this episode. He gave up basically this life of NZT, with working with the FBI for Rebecca. Like, he didn't even really I wouldn't see at least any inner turmoil about that. So his ability to walk away, I think, is the reason why he has to be the one to take it. Because you can't use Rebecca. I mean, she would be, I think, obviously dangerously smart, but dangerous to herself. I don't think that she'd be able to stop. And because she has a naturally addictive personality, both with her family's lineage in drugs and the fact that she just is a problem solver, I think that she would almost take the drug like on a 12-hour basis and never go to sleep and just die of exhaustion.
Right.
Where Brian does it to just help other people, and if he realizes that he can help people more by stepping away, he's going to do that, no problem.
Yeah.
So that struck me really, really hardly when he was not really sad. I mean, there was some disappointment. There's some, whenever you choose a life path, there's always some type of regret or sorrow about like what you're giving up. The grass is always greener. But it was interesting to see that he was happier making sure that Rebecca's was okay than even worrying about like what he's gonna do tomorrow, or if he's even going to look for Piper. Like he almost hadn't even decided that. He just made this decision and was like, "Yep, that's happening." And then she reminded him that she was like, "Oh, what are you gonna do? Like, are you gonna find Piper? Are you gonna try to stay alive?" So that's really interesting. His selflessness, I think, is really why, in turn, he has to take the drug. He's going to.
Right.
So if they're, for season 2 or moving forward with his own life, I think that he can't get out. I mean, they're going to make sure that he stays a part of the team because he has that ability that no one else does.
Maybe he'll be the janitor.
Maybe.
I could see him being brought back as like a junior analyst or something, even though he's off NZT, just to be part of the team at the end of the season, so that potentially he's there if
But
there
what
is a
would he-
season 2.
Okay, maybe.
All right.
Just from what I know about corporations, they're not going to pay somebody to do something unless they're top notch.
Well, I mean, he's
Like,
done
what
some.
what does he
some big
bring to
stuff.
the table?
He's brought a
if
lot.
he's
To,
not-
what are you talking about?
If he's
brought,
not NCT.
He's saved the world countless times. I mean, I
Not
think
on NCT?
true, but I think he can reflect back to his very star-studded resume at this point.
All right.
I don't think NZT erases your experience, though.
Yeah.
I think your point is, look, he hasn't done anything without being on the drug.
Right.
I think what JB is saying and what I'm saying is that I think that he's been through the trials. He's helped solve all these crimes, so he at least has some basic knowledge of
He has
solving
experience
cases.
now.
So
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
process
All right,
knowledge.
fine. I give in to that one.
we
Nice.
love it when she sees our way.
Yes. Well, with that, let's go on to predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
All right, so we're coming up on the finale episode. It's broken up into 2 parts. We do take a week off, but for when we come back, what do you guys think is going to happen? It's going to be a 2-part episode, so will there be sort of a mid cliffhanger? Obviously, the storyline has to be big for them to do a joined episode. We've had some where it's referred back to previous episodes, like tonight, for example. But this, I think, is the first part 1 and part 2. What do you guys see happening?
You
Me
can go first
first.
again.
Okay. I will
Courtesy
say that
standoff.
I think he will find Piper. I think Brian will find Piper, and they will find a way to get a shot that can free Brian of this. But that Senna Nomura is going to come back and make a real case for Brian and being a part of the team and continuing to take NZT for whatever end that may be. I don't think this is the end for NZT with Brian. As much as I'd like to see him take the shot and ride off into the sunset with his family and his relationships repaired, we cannot forget about Senator Moore. He's running for president out there. He's about to be in a very powerful position, and one of his prime enemies looks to be eliminated at this point. That's Mr. Sands. And so now the plate is cleared for him to take over and see through whatever he wants to see through. We saw a rice grain earlier in the season that would feed thousands of people, that he said. Limitless energy has also been a part of this show, so that there's cost-free energy for everybody. I believe there's going to be some very big and good things that Senator Moore proposes to Brian that he says can only be achieved if he stays part of the team, and it's going to be a really powerful lure for him to stay on board.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think Senator Moore is going to come back into the picture. I think he's going to want to get more involved and have Brian do something. And I also think that the part 1 and part 2, since we are talking about something that he might die from, I think the end of the next episode is going to be him near death.
That's great.
Brian
And that's
near
going to
death.
be the cliffhanger. That's going to be the oh my god, does he survive? And then the second episode will kind of wrap things up, and there'll probably be some like littler cliffhanger, but it won't be as crazy as next week.
Interesting. Well,
That's what I think.
I could not be more
curious.
curious. I love the fact that they're literally finishing it now, so no
Yeah.
one knows.
That's right.
There's a lot to look forward to. I think that the Piper loose end is the biggest thing, we have, or in my mind, sticking out as something that needs to be dealt with for Senator Moore. I mean, if Sands is in fact out of the picture, whatever plans he had with Piper is now exposed. Senator Moore knows what he was doing, he could even have people visit Sands. Like, there's so many other plays now that he is aware of what happened and that he was essentially taken out of the game by Brian. So I think, they're going to continue this mutually beneficial relationship for the time being, knowing that, Eddie Moore has to insulate himself a few more times. Mm-hmm. He's obviously going to be very good at that, having taken NCT for so long. That line in last week's episode of him saying, like, I'm thinking so far beyond the presidency, you can't even imagine, right. Was really telling. I think that NCT is almost like Compound itself, where you can keep growing as you use it. Like, you keep getting more and more intelligent as you're using it continuously. So to see sort of like the type of global problems that he's dealing with, I don't know if he is concerned with something as small as Piper, where he could just solve it so quickly. Like, it seems like, how he was dealing with Brian was just like, oh, you'll figure it out. Like, I'm barely able to spend 10 seconds with you talking about it because I have so much global stuff like on my plate right now. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think that Brian really has a genuine thing with Piper. Would obviously love to see her back in the finale episodes. But I don't think that Brian's going to be able to get out of NZT. I think that maybe that is the key, actually, is Piper and her safety. Thinking again where Brian gives up his own ambition. He doesn't really have a lot on his own, but I think he will put himself back in harm's way to help Piper, knowing that she is obviously in distress right now. Mm-hmm. Sands in jail, his henchmen are not. If they had Piper, I think the first play out of the villain's handbook is sort of that, using that ransom to get Brian to do something, or to get Sands free. Yeah. So I can't wait to see what happens.
Cool. We'll see.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, until next week, where can the fans find you guys?
Hey, you guys, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Let's Go Frank M.
And I'm Amanda Richards. Find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at AmandaFTA31.
Awesome. Well, you guys can find me, JB, at Hey John Blake. See you guys 2 weeks from now.
See you in 2 weeks.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.